Hello, my name is Andy Schmuckler. Made a lifetime effort to do the best I could to understand what's going on in the human world and what the forces are at work. And my life's mission's got to do with a few ideas that are pretty fully baked, including that book back there, The Parable of the Tribes, The Problem of Power and Social Evolution, which basically says that we have not looked at some important consequences that were inevitable when our species took the step that we took 10,000 and 12,000 years ago out of the niche in which we evolved biologically by inventing our own new way of life. That had big ramifications that for some reason haven't been looked at well enough, and that has very explains a lot about why our history has been the way it has and the nature of the challenges that we face. Those are pretty fully baked. I've been working them through for over half a century. But the idea that I'm going to do in this video is pretty half-baked because it's a fairly new idea. I don't have the wealth of knowledge that I would want to have. But just a lot of questions I haven't pursued. But I think that there's something true to be said about the I don't know about inevitable, but the consequences of a game-changing technology coming out into the world. I hadn't thought before about how there are some technologies that when they come out, they're so important that things work differently. I don't know. What I don't know is, can you find that forever? You can find a bunch of game-changing technologies, like whether when the telegraph came, how much did that change? Because all of a sudden it was possible to communicate almost instantaneously across thousands of miles. But we have been dealing with a lot of really major technological changes. I don't even know how many of them are game changers in terms of their impact on the wider world. I mean, like, is the cell phone change anything fundamental about the world? Well, it's clear that the internet did. The opportunities for power-seeking forces, political, economic, to utilize the new technologies were considerable and impactful. And it turns out to have been in our times that a lot of destructive people have been the most successful at utilizing these new technologies. The good guys were better off when Walter Cronkite said, that's the way it is. And gave the date of the day. It was they and the other networks, people were given the same picture, basically, of what's going on. But as soon as you start proliferating things, you can get something like a Fox News. And also, if you've got a certain kind of money working in the world, non-randomly assigned to somebody like Rupert Murdock, who's had a destructive impact on the democracies of 3 different countries. The wrong people were able to capitalize on the new opportunities. There's the world as it used to be, which with all of its regulations and culture built up around it. And then there's the world that we suddenly have. Where kids can get lost onto the internet. and where Australia just recently passed a law saying that I guess it was kids under 16 won't be allowed to engage in social media. I guess there's plenty of evidence that the net effect of social media on young people is destructive. Well, things unfold without any kind of regulation when you get into an anarchic situation. And what the game changer, the game changing element means going into a new game where money like has been backing the Republican Party can put people into an information bubble where they have a completely false picture of the world. And you can create subcultures and companies to maximize profits develop algorithms that have the effect, though not necessarily the purpose, of increasing people's anger and making them less open to hearing any other point of view. The forces of brokenness are always the ones that take advantage of the lack of regulation in a new game. And interestingly, I would call what happens when you go have the technological changes in the information world that we've had since Walter Cronkite. And I would say that each one of them, when they dawned, created a kind of anarchy. I'll just say that anarchy is key to the problem of power and social evolution. The force of brokenness takes advantage of any kind of anarchy. The opposite of anarchy is some kind of an order which regulates how things go. And not all orders are wonderful, but you need to have a good order, not to have anarchy. And anarchy allows the spirit of the gangster to have a disproportionate say in how the human world develops. So just like we've got somebody like Elon Musk buying Twitter and Mark Zuckerberg running his company the way he runs, and it's kind of there is a kind of a gangster mentality that seems to have been fortified by the anarchy. And this is part of a pattern, I think, if we looked at a whole bunch of different, that's where I don't feel like I've done enough homework. But I know that the coming of gunpowder, for example, also was a game changer. Changed the whole offense versus defense between a walled city and an attacking or besieging army. And I don't know that I can recall what I've once understood about the social evolutionary implications of the change in the balance of power that gunpowder brought. Anyway, it'd be an interesting study, and I haven't done it, but I do have a sense that it is frequently the case that new technologies that are game-changing lead to anarchy. Anarchy fortifies the force of brokenness. What's in civilization, we haven't evolved natural good order. We have to construct it. The need to construct it always comes after it's discovered by the fact that there is a disorder, a bad order. Do you remember how there were these utopian ideas about how the internet was going to be? I was never deeply into that culture, but I was kind of aware that there were sort of utopian visions of what the internet would be. And Wikipedia is I would say, indicates that indeed that utopian aspect is part of what came about. You can get answers to all kinds of questions, and that's kind of wonderful. I love it, but it was an innocence about how that was thought about. Those people who thought that we were going to have the internet was going to be the realization of all the good intentions that the utopians possessed about where they wanted the world to go. But the thing is, a breakthrough technology like that creates anarchy, and anarchy gives an opportunity for the forces that are always seeking power, that has been the consequence of anarchy, the spirit of the gangster, since the very rise of civilization. And that's where that theory is. The ultimate technology that for which this is true is civilization itself, or to be more specific about technologies. It was a game-changing innovation to start gardening what you used to gather and start herding what you used to hunt. That changed the game, and it had the consequence that once you start doing that, I think I proved this pretty well in the Parallel Tribes, you are inexorably driven in a certain direction in your social evolution, that you will inevitably arrive thousands of years later, in the case of human beings on this planet, you will arrive at something as ugly as these empires that we see in the Nile and the Tigris Euphrates and four other places around the world, where you've got empires that are basically ruled by tyrants who are basically exploitative of a mass of people, different forms, but it's a common pattern. And that pattern is a function not of the nature of the creature, but of the systemic force that gets unleashed in where the spirit of the gangster gets to dictate a whole lot about how things are going to go. So when we have a new technology that changes the game, part of the challenge is to regulate. I mean, this is an argument for the more powerful the technology, the more important that its unfolding get regulated. And it's not always clear how to do that best. But letting it be for too long, in the case of our information technologies, has resulted in an American majority that could have voted for Donald Trump. I don't think that could have happened without the negative, destructive effects of the unregulated, anarchic new world that these breakthrough technologies brought to us. With all their blessings, they are dangerous unless we regulate them properly. So that's true for these new information technologies, whether Australia's ban on social media is a good approach or not. Something has to be done. And also even at the level of the whole species, where we've unleashed technologies, starting with the very rise of civilization, that have had consequences that we've not brought under control. Our civilization is not under control. The direction which it is going is substantially being determined by forces that we do not control. We have an influence, but the balance between how much human beings are chosen and how much human beings are being driven by an anarchy of a civilized system has not been advantageous enough. So this is a wider lesson about the importance of creating a human world that is well ordered enough to prevent our destroying ourselves, which is something that could happen in the next not so many generations. So the problem of social media and disinformation, it can be understood as an analog and as an example of what happens to a creature that creates civilization that changes the game without there being any rules in place to make sure the game gets played in a way that isn't ultimately destructive. Like, subscribe, encourage if you're so moved. I do appreciate it. Above all, my request is that if you'd like to understand what our situation is and what we need to do about it, I think I have something to offer on my website, A Better Human Story, which it represents a decades-long effort to create an integrated picture of the forces at work in the human world and the nature of the challenge that we need to meet if we're going to survive on this planet as human civilization for the long haul. Thank you. Bye-bye.